there's a very strong element of stalemate going on here. And there must be plenty of people in the higher echelons in Russia that have got brains and have worked out that this is crazy.
Well,
this is completely pointless. This is not what we want to do. We want to make lots and lots of money, and we want to have lots and lots of friends and be able to travel the world freely.
I want to get your thought on this meeting coming up on Friday between Donald Trump and Vladimir Putin. And can politicians be better listeners? This comes after Caroline Levitt, the spokesperson for White House press secretary, I suppose is her full title, described the upcoming one-on-one between Putin and Trump as an, I quote, listening exercise. Edwina, what does that mean, a listening exercise? And do you think Donald Trump is capable of listening?
Well, he might have to listen to a 3-hour rant from President Putin, mightn't he? Will Putin be listening to Trump? No, not at all. Not at all. There's an element of kind of big bears sizing up, or big silverback gorillas sizing each other up and looking each other in the eye. They have, of course, met before during Trump's first term of office. And it's at least possible, the rumours say, that Trump might know some of his people rather better than he should, and that many years ago, Russian mafia people were involved in financing some of his activities. So that's at least possible. At least possible. There was a time 20-odd years ago when it looked like Russians were about to become capitalists and be our friends. So that didn't last very long, but it did. There was a time when it was like that. So what are they going to be doing? Issuing a lot of meaningless phrases. I suspect what Trump might have in the back of his mind is Vladimir serious, and would he accept a ceasefire? Now, there's a yes and no about that. Yes, because actually it's costing the Russian economy an enormous amount, over 1 million casualties. This can't be good. This has no way to go except to end. No, because actually Putin thinks he's going to win. He thinks he's going to take over the whole of Ukraine, put a puppet in place of Zelensky, and then he's going to have a go at whatever is next. And that's because what he has in his mind is kind of imperial Russia. In other words, within a fortnight or so, we'll know. Because I think what will happen then is that there will either be a stop to Russian aggression, in which case we might be doing a deal, or they won't, in which case I think probably the backing of Zelensky by the Americans will increase.
Now, the issue, of course, is that possibility of just a misunderstanding here. Kate and I were talking about this earlier. This time, the last time they met, they had one translator in the room. This time, it's just going to be the three of them. We saw, for example, what happened when President Zelensky, and his English is very good, but perhaps it got him into a little bit of trouble in that explosive Oval Office exchange a few months ago. And we were asking how good Vladimir Putin's English is. And Joey, you suggested this clip. This is a clip of Vladimir Putin speaking English. This is back in 2013. Perhaps his English is better than we thought. Let's have a listen.
Ladies and gentlemen, I am delighted to greet members and guests of the General Assembly of the International Exhibitions Bureau. Russia has a long and rich experience of participation in the World Expo movement. We took part in the very first Universal Exhibition in London in 1851.
I mean, it's good, maybe a little rehearsed.
I think he sounds perfectly fluent. I mean, I guess that's because, Jerry, it is just going to be the two men in a room this time round, and that's the concern here, is that either there might be some kind of misunderstanding, or both of them could come away with a completely different interpretation of what had been said in that meeting.
Yeah, I think Putin underplays his English. I think he uses it to his sort of strategic advantage. I've read stuff about him in sort of conferences, and he just sort of sits there silently and listens. And you know, he's been in these meetings where everyone speaks English for like 25 years now. He's certainly absorbed some of it. He'll just sort of sit there quietly, whisper to his advisors, and everyone thinks he's this scary guy who doesn't understand what they're saying. I think it's a sort of strategic thing from him. Him and Merkel, of course. Merkel spoke perfect Russian. He spoke perfect German because he was a KGB officer in Dresden. So they would speak to each other in sort of a mixture of the two. And then when the English meetings started, he would just sort of sit back very quietly.
It's interesting. I wonder whether he is sort of just ideologically opposed to speaking English in those meetings, or whether it is, I mean, it can be a power
part of the
play.
mystique, yeah.
Part of the mystique of Putin, exactly.
Sure, but it's important to hide what you can do, and to ensure that you're always underestimated when you are a crooked guy like him. The one who's at a disadvantage, of course, is Trump, because he doesn't speak a word of Russian as far as anybody knows. But what Trump is probably quite good at is reading body language. And he's going to be he will know very quickly if he is being fooled or if he's being talked down to or if he's being patronised.
Well,
he won't like that.
Edwina, he said, didn't he? He said, I'll know within the first couple of minutes.
Yeah.
That's basically like going on a date. It's like saying, I'll know within the first couple of minutes I sit down with someone if they're the one or not. It kind of feels like that's how Trump's treating this meeting.
Yeah, but you do. I mean, you sit down with somebody, you have a chat with somebody at a bus stop or whatever, and you know within minutes if you want to carry on the conversation, if you like them and trust them, and you've got something in common. What they have in common is that they're both, world kings, and the world is big enough for both of them. The question is where the border is. The people who should be really worried about all this really are the Ukrainians and the surrounding countries, the Baltic states and so on. On the other hand, I don't think Putin can carry on doing this forever. The resources that are being deployed to the pointless war in Ukraine, which he can't win, it's already failed. The resources, the destruction that the Ukrainians are wreaking on their petrochemical industry, the way that the Ukrainians are rapidly advancing in intelligence and hacking and so on. They seem to be doing a very good job of bringing airports to a halt. They've been attacking airfields and military planes. They've been getting missiles of their own construction thousands of kilometers away from Ukraine. And that can only increase. Now, if that's the case, then Putin may well have a very strong reason for wanting to stop. I suspect not. I think he will try and carry on. He will try and fool Trump, and Trump is not going to be fooled.
Which is the point that Volodymyr Zelensky has been making, that there is no sign that the Russian army is looking towards a ceasefire. What I'm still struggling with, Joey, and perhaps this is my naivety, I can't quite fathom how a meeting of such importance at this stage of this war is allowed to take place with two men alone in a room. I would have thought that there'd be precedent where you have to, I don't know whose law it would be,
but you setting those rules, I guess.
Well, I guess as I'm saying it out loud, I'm thinking, well, who would set those rules? But it also feels incredibly wrong to have such a meeting of great importance just be behind closed doors of two men who are just going to sit down and discuss things.
You've got no civil servant hovering in the background saying, "Oh, actually, that's not going to work. That border there is a bit more complicated than you." But maybe that's how you get things done. I don't know. You cut through all that.
Well, certainly from Trump's point of view, that is how he gets things done. I mean, he was quoted as saying, that Volodymyr Zelensky said that he will need a referendum in order to give away any sort of territory. And Donald Trump scoffed at that and saying, why on earth is the Constitution getting in the way of giving away territory?
Yeah, I mean, I think the Ukrainians are in a difficult spot, right? They're running out of men, they're running out of bullets. I mean, Russia has a completely different approach to this war, where they just send 1,000 people a day to die in these hideous conditions. I mean, Ukraine is not doing that, and it's at a military disadvantage as a result.
Well, yeah, but meanwhile, of course, let's bear this in mind. What Putin has been seriously weakened by this war, because what he was expecting to do was march into Ukraine, into Kyiv, in full dress uniform a week after the invasion, and it didn't happen. And it definitely didn't happen. And much of the land that they took, the Ukrainians have taken back. There's a very strong element of stalemate going on here. And there must be plenty of people in the higher echelons in Russia that have got brains and have worked out that this is crazy. This is completely pointless. This is not what we want to do. We want to make lots and lots of money, and we want to have lots and lots of friends and be able to travel the world freely. I was in Uzbekistan not long ago on the Silk Road, and it was full of visitors from Russia. And the reason that they're there, they weren't very happy there, but the reason they're there is they can't go to, the Costa Brava and a few other places that they used to go to in large numbers.
Well, let's see if that stalemate can be broken this Friday. The whole world will be watching.